Okay, so we're all here. Our guest speaker, Margi Haas, is here. Lovely to see you all. And I'm going to ask you to just do a really very, very brief intro of yourselves. We will have time at the end of the talk. There'll be questions and answers. Margie's going to talk. It may be a little bit interactive. And then we'll have time for questions and answers and chatting if you'd like to after the talk. So I hope you'll be able to stay for that. I really miss seeing you folks in person. I really do. I don't like the hamburgers at the Bijou that much, but I love going there to see you all at that restaurant. Anyway, it's a real pleasure. So let's go around. Let's start, and I'm going to go in the order I see you on my screen. So, Joan, if you would mind introducing yourself very briefly. I'm going to be very rude and aggressive and cut you off at about a minute and a half.
Anyway, I'm Joan Learn, and I've recently recently 2 years ago, moved from Connecticut, New York to Sarasota. I have been 35 plus years in the career transition outplacement business, and 4 years ago, I got certified as a retirement options coach. So I'm working with both people that are career moving forward and also retirement, what they can do in retirement and not really retire because people don't want to really retire. So
Right.
I'm working with both of those kinds of people here in Sarasota and remotely in Connecticut and New York.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask everybody except the person who's speaking to please mute yourselves so that we don't have the background noise. Thank you. Judy Carr.
I'm Judy Carr. I do systems coaching and leadership development with school districts in different states, all of it now virtually and more part-time than I used to be, but that part's on purpose. And then I do a little bit of work. It's just one-on-one life and career coaching and end-of-life doula work and some work with trauma and trauma-sensitive yoga. But that's all sidelined.
Okay, thank you.
Important thank you.
Mona?
Yes, I'm Mona Baker.
Not Mona, you just muted yourself. I want to hear you. There you go.
Okay. I'm Mona Baker, and I'm a somatic movement therapist, and I help people to move with an ease of moving and to relieve their pain using my program, my Actionomics mind-body program. It introduces them to a whole different kind of mind.
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you.
Yeah, Mona, you're kind of muffled. Maybe your mic
is that better?
Yes, much
Leslie,
better.
you're a little muffled too.
Okay, well, I'll lean in then.
Okay, all right. From the top? Anyway, I'm Mona Baker, and I am a somatic movement therapist. I help people resolve their issues with pain and to discover an ease of moving basis. I use my patented Actionomics method and to teach them a different mind-body conversation and to help them discover a new ease of moving to relieve their pain. And I work with clients individually. I also work online. I have courses online that I'm offering. I'm really excited. So thank you. All right.
Thank you. Yes, the pandemic has helped a lot of us to pivot a little bit.
Yes.
It's good if you take advantage of it. Nina Schmidt?
Hi, everyone. Great to see you. Just like Leslie, I miss everyone. And I hope to see you all soon again at the Bijou. In the meantime, we make the best of it. I make the best of the situation in my career. I'm a faculty member at USF. I work for the USF St. Pete campus, where I teach finance and real estate classes. Most of my classes have been online, and that has been a godsend, as you guys can imagine. But I'm teaching a very interesting format right now. I don't even know what they call it, hybrid flex or something like that, where I have some students in the classroom and some online while I guide and facilitate a Teams meeting. So it's been a real learning journey, but I'm really fortunate to be part of this group and to embrace the concept of really that a teacher is more or less a coach, and
oh yes,
that is
for
really
sure.
awesome.
And coaches or teachers, both. Yeah, I just gave a hybrid talk for a group, and it was an interesting experience to have some in the room and remember to include the people on Zoom and integrate it all. Yeah. Phyllis?
Hi, I am Phyllis Muffson, and I primarily work with people who don't know what they want to do next. And my background is as a career consultant, as a certified life coach, and as a certified RIM practitioner, which is involved with emotional healing.
Thank you. And our lovely guest, Mary Thorpe, who's a friend of Margi's and mine.
Thank you, Leslie. My name is Mary.
Oh, Mary, you cut out. Hang on.
I live, it always, I don't know why it does that, but it does. So anyway, I live in West Virginia after having been in Philadelphia for 30 years. And I'm a designer of life. I collaborate with people in designing conversations that shape the future of humanity. People come to me when they've exhausted all their solutions, and in the course of dialogue and conversations, we end up creating solutions that create unprecedented results, and it's a really, really fun way to live life.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Luann?
Hi, I'm Luann Morrow. Most of you heard my earlier talk about the assisted living facility, which is one of the things that I do. But I also work with seniors who are in transition, some younger seniors in making long-term plans, and some older seniors in making long-term or short-term plans. So I'm a senior coach, and I'm becoming more senior myself each day.
As are we all.
Yes.
Thank
you.
Deb Masbero?
I'm Deb Mazzaferro, and I'm still doing the same thing, coaching and consulting for specialty food trade, and actually got 2 new clients today. Virtual trade shows. I wrote a book on trade shows, having attended, set up, and whatever for 40 years, trade shows. Anyway, they're now virtual, which is, so I have to, in order to keep on top of that, and coincidentally, one of these new clients is doing a virtual trade show starting today. So that's been kind of an interesting little pivot.
Yeah, virtual trade show. What an idea.
Yeah, well, they have to do something.
Yeah.
One that my biggest client was involved in last month that was a regional distributor put on. They actually ran the show specials all month, but then the actual show portal was just open one day. But they wrote more cases than they did last year by just adapting. So everybody was like, oh, it's going to be terrible, blah, blah. Everybody has this negative feeling, but if you put one foot in front of the other and bring all your stakeholders in and ask them what they need, I truly believe you can make it work no matter what.
Yes, thank you very much. Julie Donnelly?
My name is Julie Donnelly, and I'm a muscular therapist. I specialize in the treatment of chronic pain and sports injuries. I've been doing it for 32 years. I've written a whole bunch of books that teach you how to self-treat to release pain. The name of the book, one of the books, is Treat Yourself to Pain-Free Living. I have an active therapy practice, but more and more I'm getting into teaching massage therapists how to do my techniques, which are pretty unique. They're osteopathic techniques. And I also teach courses to individuals like yourselves how to find and self-treat muscles that cause chronic pain.
Wonderful, thank you. Glad to see you here. Christine Hannafin?
Here we go. Hi. Hi. Nice.
We have your audio, but we lost your video.
Hey, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We want to see your lovely face.
Big thumbs. There we go.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Chris Hannafin, and my specialty is as a psychotherapist, and I do holistic work. So I help people in short order get to the root of the sources of anxiety and depression so that it can go away. It's very effective work. It has brain imaging. Not that I do the brain imaging, but there's studies with brain imaging that in just very few sessions that people get relief from either unpleasant situations that they're in. And sometimes I'm sure all of us have worked with somebody that it wasn't comfortable for us to work with. And I can work with you so that you can be totally fine in working with your client or your family member or whatever. So it literally, the work that I do, it's called NET, Neuro-Emotional Technique. And I've been a therapist for 30 years, but it's the finest work that I've experienced. I've been certified in it and working with it for the past 19. It's, I include everything, regular psychotherapy, but then we get to this method that uses acupuncture touches and just in the wrist area, I play people like an instrument, and literally we can clear that conditioning, our conditioned response that keep us reacting and either doing the same behavior or, and a lot of doctors are trained in it as well. So it's for mind and body, for physical pain.
Sounds
and
great. Sounds wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And last but definitely not least, the inimitable Gail Condrick.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm not least. That's good.
No,
and I am last.
Not. I'll be least. I'm going last.
Yeah. Okay, good. Hi, everybody. It's good to see so many people I know and some new people, too. I am a Carolyn Mays Sacred Contracts archetypal consultant, which means I use the power of Jungian archetypes and talk to you about not only who you are, but who you are from a soul perspective. And while that's not picked up as a business sense, I find that I'm talking to my friends almost daily about what is their soul contract at this time and what are they doing. In addition to that, I'm an author, and I have moved everything online. I did in January, and it's going well. I've got another set of classes coming up this fall, based on my book, which is called Walking the Grove, Journal of a Sacred Encounter. And there's now 2 courses. They include workbooks and videos and virtual walks and Facebook groups to chat. And I'm finding that the people who've taken it really are getting more of it out of it than learning how to write. They are really connecting on a deeper level with the natural world. So that makes me very happy.
Wonderful. That's going to lead us directly into our topic for today. Thank you, Gail. I'm Leslie Austin. Most of you know me. I have been a very long-term executive coach dealing with challenging people with challenging behaviors, a lot of narcissism, but other things as well. And I'm happy to say I'm involved in creating a new pivot in my work. And I'm heading into doing something called emotional mastery, which is dealing with any obstacle you might have, any emotional issue, any difficult person or situation. There's a system that I've developed to deal with emotions simply, systematically, and extremely productively to open up all that energy we use resisting our dark feelings. So it's in development. It's going to launch soon, and I'll keep you posted as I have more information. And that leads us to our guest, Margi Haas. Margi coaches and mentors her clients on soul voyages to exciting new inner and outer worlds, opening and expanding the horizons and possibilities of their lives. She's trained in multiple modalities, including psychotherapy, reincarnation therapy, ontological coaching, neurofeedback, and shamanic healing. She's taught at NYU, Manhattan's East-West Bookstore, and Sarasota Audubon Society, among other venues. And her many journeys include working in the U.S. and Japan on Wall Street, running her own international executive recruiting business, traveling extensively in Europe and Asia, learning to speak and live in the Japanese language, and studying swallow-tailed kitehawks in Florida. She's what's considered a citizen scientist, tracking them and turning in data and doing some very good work with the kites. not in addition to being a great photographer of the kites. And she has a brand new website, wayfindingthecosmos.com. We'll put that in the chat a little later. And she's also started a new Facebook group, Wayfinding the Cosmos, which you are all invited to join. And I'm delighted to say Margi is my partner, and she's an awesome speaker. So Margi, take it away.
Thank you very much. Leslie, Leslie's my audio engineer among many, many other things. Can you all hear me okay? Because Leslie, you're muffled on your end.
We can hear you just fine.
Okay, super, super. It's really nice to see everybody here. I know some of you for sure. And I'd like to thank Phyllis for inviting me to speak to you all. I believe she heard somebody, I know Gail heard my talk at the Florida Creativity Conference in the very end of March in 2019. Wow, that feels so long ago now because we were all in person. But Phyllis, I understand, heard something about this talk and asked that I do it again. I do want to tell you all that this is the same topic revisited. So as you all know, the topic is the creative power of joyful activism, and I've called it Revisited. And so it's been roughly 2 years since I wrote this talk. And as I say, wow, has the world changed. So I'm going to start with describing the workshop because I want to frame it right to begin with. So there are innumerable challenges and threats to nature that confront us all right now. If you're like me, all of the issues, the threats, the unsolvable problems before us make me feel like I want to run away, change the channel, flip the page, forget about it all until the next issue suddenly is there before me in the headlines. But obviously we can't hide and expect to create the changes that are so desperately needed now in our world. So what to do? So my purpose in making this talk really is to remind us all, encourage us all, that we can change our perspective creatively. We can start by focusing on what we treasure and honor on our dear planet. We can inspire and empower ourselves and others to take action, hopefully joyfully, to heal Mother Earth now. There's phenomenal power in the positive intention of just a few of us to change the world. Drops of water run to rivulets, which run to rivers, which run to the ocean. So for me, I've started this new website called Wayfinding the Cosmos, where I take people on soul journeys. And I consider what I'm talking about for all of us a soul journey that I'm taking you on today. And I do have a private Facebook page by the same title, Wayfinding the Cosmos, which I invite you all to join. It's just getting started, but I will be putting regular talks up and interviewing other people on all of the various things that I consider wayfinding the cosmos. So thank you all for being here. Really what I want to focus on, pardon me, is introducing us, or perhaps it's really not an introduction because everybody here is pretty sophisticated, but I want to focus on a practice for creating positive change anywhere you wish. But for today, I want to focus on healing nature, healing Mother Earth, healing the climate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my own creative process of joyful activism by way of introduction, Then I'm going to ask you all what brought you here and have some of you participate in this process in the group if you'd like. And then I'll provide some other examples of what I consider to be joyful activism and then elaborate on this process before concluding. So again, I want to emphasize we are much more effective and creative activists when we focus on what we can do and not on what's wrong. When we act positively in support of causes where we want to create change, we're so much more effective because our positive focus opens pathways to more creative solutions. Our souls can sing when we're engaged in positive actions and solutions. And I think, as we all know, our culture focuses so much on the doing of everything. But it's important to realize that actively creating or cultivating an inner state of being positive in our minds and hearts is a form of activism, just as is taking actions in the outer world. When our inner worlds are positive, the actions we take in the outer world are more likely to really have positive results. So I chose to do this workshop originally because I actually, as many of you may know, if you know me, I'm a bird watcher. I'm actually a birder, and some people would call birders fanatical. That means I'm out all over odd places looking for some rare bird that's coming through. So I end up seeing a lot of unusual places here in the Sarasota area. And sad to say, I see an awful lot of development in places. If you go to Celery Fields, if you're local, that's a major nature area. And for birders, it's a crazy birding area. So even if you know locally, just since I last gave this talk, oh my gosh, there's a major shopping development across the street. There's a big truck depot coming in. There's a project right down the road. And this area wasn't even clear cut. But I better watch myself here. I can go off on a rant really easily about development locally. So there's so many issues. People need guidance, leadership to oppose so much development, so much destruction. And I must say, right now, I declare that we're really in a state of emergency with Mother Earth. The fires on the West Coast, we're really canaries in the proverbial coal mine, and we're all canaries. The fires, I don't know if you all realize, but hundreds of thousands of birds have died and have showed up dead in Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. And nobody really knows why, but a friend of mine on the edge of the fires in California says the chickens are dying in her backyard. So we're not, this isn't coming, this is here. So I don't want to be a doomsday person. I'm so aware, as I think we all are, that our mood creates our experience. And yet I do choose to focus on confronting issues. But if I'm going to go forward, I'm aware that I need to refocus my thoughts and remind myself, focus on what I love, focus on the blue sky, the swallowtail kite hawks, the myriad greens of all the trees here, the wonder, the beauty. I need to focus on the positive. Don't make an enemy of a so-called enemy. I don't want to oppose the dark. I need to focus instead on what I want to do that would be for the good of all. It's maybe a little off topic, but I love Bette Midler's phrase, if you want to keep flying, don't look down. So, and part of this too is to set the intention. So I make a positive I make a commitment to the positive as a practice over and over. There are people who care about stabilizing the weather, cleaning the oceans, saving the forests, saving the birds, saving the land for conservation. They are right here in front of me now. Wow, I'm not alone in focusing on the positive. We can help each other here. I want to be clear, I'm not a preacher exhorting you. I'm inviting you to share with me the discipline of focusing on the positive. Why this is a big first step in taking creative, constructive steps to what we want to change in the environment for the planet. So voila, giving this workshop, giving this talk is one small step in keeping with my own positive intention. Every action, no matter how small, makes a difference. Every ripple causes movement and builds momentum. So let's drill down a bit. How do you manifest joy when working on confronting issues? I find this as a daily practice, and I mean a practice. It takes some discipline. Where we can all take charge and consciously focus on the positive on any small step toward the light. And needless to say, this isn't just about the environment. I believe this is the way we all actually have to live every day, every moment. But it sure takes discipline. I notice I get really hooked into I don't even watch TV, and I get so hooked into the news on the internet. Oh my God, that's wrong. This is wrong. Oh gosh, how can I deal with this? Oh, I'm just going to go away. I'm going to do something else. I can't think about this. So, Leslie, how are we doing on time? I didn't check when we started. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Some host I am. You're about 35, 40 minutes left.
Okay, great. Sorry for the interruption, but I just want to make sure that, so would anybody like to share what drew them to this topic today? What stumps you? What makes you feel hopeless or hopeful about the environment? Does anybody want to share? You can unmute yourself if you do.
I'll say something.
Great, thank you.
Okay. I'm always looking for the sunlight. And I know that if the more of us that are looking for that sunlight, that's what's going to change the world more than anything. It is our energy, just our frequency, not the specifics. It's just the energy that then begets people responding to do the changes that need to be. So, and I'm so excited you're talking about what the topic that you're talking and the energy that you're bringing to it. Because after this talk, the world is going to be in such a much better frequency. So thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. And in fact, this gets to be heady really quickly, but I'm really convinced from all the reading and studying I've done that we all are really originally consciousness, the trees, the birds, the humans, and everything really comes from our own consciousness. And I don't mean as humans, but the energy ground from which we all originate, we all emerge as consciousness, and it is positive. But then because we all come from energy to begin with, and in a way energy has no good or negative, but what we focus on becomes very literal. So if we get obsessed with what's wrong, or if we don't focus on the sunshine, as you say, the sunlight, then that's what we produce in our world. And quantum physics really affirms this, even in the science. People don't like to go there yet. Well, no, that quantum physics, oh, no. But actually, anyway, this gets very heady really quickly, but thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else who would like to share here?
Yes, it's Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Jonathan. Yeah, I totally agree with law of attraction, and I've certainly done a lot of reading through years of quantum physics and all the substance and stuff. And why I got drawn to your topic wasn't so much your topic, which maybe I wasn't clear on, but I knew if you were associated with Leslie, you had to be cool. So, and clearly, you know, I agree with you. There's so many challenges in the world right now, and I'm just beginning to be reading a book, which I'm very pleased to be reading a positive book, and this is the jacket from it. And this is Jane Fonda's new book, What Can I Do?
Right.
So she talks, so the premise of the book is behind every chapter, there's action steps that we as individuals can take. So I'm only, you know, like 35 pages into the book, so I can't share everything, but I'm really happy to have a very positive book about what can I do. That's pretty much it for now. Thanks.
Does anybody else want to share right now? Deb, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a friend who works for a futurist, and they have started a group called the Sarasota Institute, and it includes David Houle, who's the futurist, along with the president of the Ringling School of Art and Design, and many other illustrious people there in Sarasota, and they're making this a global group. But I've known Bob Leonard for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. He's a dear friend. He's like a brother. And he does most of their research and writing. So I've been on the cutting edge of this for a long time. And, you know, he'll scare the bejesus out of you in no time flat. But I've also taken the initiative as well to do my own research. And, you know, what we're hearing right now that is so negative is the bullhorn that's finally, you know, should have been used 10 or 15 years ago and is just now getting everybody out of their seat and raising a ruckus. But in reality, and I composted and recycled, you know, back in the day. I mean, you know, I've been on that, let's do the individual thing. My next car is electric, blah, 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 right? But, you know, each of us individually can't do what Duke Energy can do, or, you know, other large organizations. So I just give you a couple of points, and you can do your own research, or you can write to me, or I'm happy to have this conversation. But we are on a path right now where nobody is investing in oil drilling. The fact that Trump said there won't be any oil drilling in the Atlantic is because everybody who would invest in that knows there's enough oil already drilled, already tapped.
Deb, can you kind of keep it to your personal thoughts? Because
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have that much time to talk here.
Well, just saying that there's, you know, we may feel overwhelmed individually, but the bigger picture is better than you might think.
Well, I hope you're correct. And I must say that one reason why I did this talk is because I find it very hard to often, I'm surprised how often I sneak up on myself and go, oh my gosh, I'm kind of obsessed with the dark, even though I keep having to reframe what's positive that drew me to an issue in the first place. What's the first thing that needs changing? What outcome would be better? I think we're at the point, Deb, where, and all of us, where each one of us has got to get real rigorous. And each one of us has responsibility, not for having caused the issues as much as how are we personally going to go forward. And again, you know, the focus here, and a lot of this group seems to already really have this in place, but we really need to be constantly focusing on what's working. If the world is really a place of energy, what we focus, we will manifest. And I notice how easy it is to go, oh, well, the Sunrise Movement, those young people are really fighting climate change here. You know, Greta Thunberg in 2019, right when I was talking the last time, organized the biggest climate strike in the whole world. It was an amazing number of people. But it's now, to me, we've all got to we got to be personally very rigorous. What are we focused on in every moment? And actually, this is about living life, period. It's not just about the climate or our dear planet and where we find ourselves now. And in fact, in some ways, I think we're incredibly lucky in Central Florida because we don't seem to have too many serious issues here at all. It seems like it's all out there, but out there is us also. So the Dalai Lama says, never, ever give up. Never, ever give up. So where are we now? And again, I almost feel like I'm preaching to the choir here. Everybody is very with it. But just to maybe remind us all, how do we up the ante? Well, trust your originality. Compassion is revolution. What do we all love? And send love to it. And to you, loving it. So I almost want to cry when I say this, but I happen to love California. I happen to love Oregon. And I haven't even gone out to look at the wonderful birds out there. Hopefully they're still there. Anyway, so I focus on all the birds and the things that I love. I encourage you all to do that. And take all of your attention off what you dislike, off of what you hate. And boy, it's not easy to do sometimes. So focus. You know, genius is just really focused attention onto something specific. That's all it is. So anyone who gives attention to any subject for a period of time will evolve in that direction of understanding. Focus on what you want to have happen for the good of all. Declare, I am a force for good. Your consciousness makes the difference. The world out there reflects us all inside. Look inside to heal out there. You know, and as I say, another way to put this is we need to be joyful activism, not just make joy-filled activism. And if we can't be joyful, let's at least be positive as a discipline. You know, there's I don't know how many people here have heard of Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian term for a process that's really simple. And I use it when I can remember to keep myself centered. And when I'm looking at things that disturb me or when I think I've screwed up about something. It's the true story. I find it hard to believe it's true, but the true story of Ihakala Hugh Lin, who is a psychologist, psychotherapist, who healed an entire ward of the criminally insane somewhere in Hawaii, and not so very long ago. And amazingly, he never, at least at first, he didn't meet the individual criminally insane people. He sat in an office and opened each one of their files and prayed. He looked at their specific issue, for example, murderous rage. And he looked at where he himself had murderous rage. The thinking is his kahuna, his shamanic teacher, who was a woman, taught that we are each responsible for everything, because there is no out there. Everything happens in our own minds. I am not saying that we caused the fires, that we killed all those birds on the West Coast. I am saying that I am responsible for my emotions, my reactions to what's happened. I can focus on the positive and the uplifting of this now. The rains fall steadily, the fires are stopping, the trees are regrowing, people are planting trees everywhere. So what did this guy do? You know, he sat in the office and he focused on what was wrong or what he needed to uplift in himself. See, I'm not even going to positive there. I go to what's wrong. But he was focusing on how he could uplift specific issues in the specific inmates in this prison. And what he did was 4 simple phrases. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. Again, he would look at a client, he would look at an inmate and look at, oh, this murderous rage. Oh, I feel that rage. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you.
Margie, you got muted. Margie, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Wow.
Okay, there you go.
That's amazing. I didn't even touch anything.
I know, it was my mistake. I put the Ho'oponopono steps in the chat for you. So
oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my mistake. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so as a credo, as a guiding principle, your life, my life, can be as wonderful, as horrible as you or as I allow it to be. It all depends on the emotions and thoughts which we focus upon. And therein lies the basis of our success. How much do I focus on the emotions and thoughts that bring me pain? And how much do I focus on the emotions and thoughts that bring me joy? As way of conclusion, maybe a lot of you know of the very well-known Vietnamese Buddhist priest Thich Nhat Hanh, who was very instrumental in protecting the individual Vietnamese during the Vietnam War. And he wrote a piece called Imagine a Pine Tree. And this is a quote. As activists, we want to do something to help the world to suffer less. But we know that when we are not peaceful, when we don't have enough compassion in us, we can't do much to help the world. We ourselves are at the center. We have to make peace and reduce the suffering in ourselves first, because we represent the world. Peace, love, and happiness must always be here with ourselves. There is suffering, fear, and anger inside us, and when we take care of it, we are taking care of the world. Imagine a pine tree standing in the yard. If that pine tree were to ask us what it should do, what the maximum is a pine tree can do to help the world, our answer would be real clear. You should be a beautiful, healthy pine tree. You help the world by being your best. That is true for humans also. The basic thing we can do to help the world is to be healthy, solid, loving, and gentle to ourselves. Then when people look at us, they will gain confidence. They will say, if she can do it, if she can do that, I can do that too. End quote. So don't think that you and the world are two separate things. So anything you do for yourself, you do for the world. Don't think that you and the world are two separate things. When you breathe in mindfully and gently, when you feel the wonder of being alive, remember that you are also doing this for the world. Practicing with that kind of insight, you will succeed in helping the world. You don't even have to wait until tomorrow. You can do it right now, today. So by way of conclusion and inspiration, I'd like to have you listen to Kermit the Frog and the Rainbow Connection. So he'll sing to all of us, and to me, he's kind of a popular muse, and he's really inspires wonder in all of us. So before I ask Leslie to bring Kermit into our to say goodbye to or to encourage us all as we end this, I would just like to invite you all to join my private Facebook called Wayfinding the Cosmos, as Leslie said earlier. And if you're interested in knowing more about the specific things about which I talked, please feel free to email me at mhaas@wayfindingthecosmos.com, and I'll send you some specific notes on today's talk, some references and some quotes for you to inspire you on your way. So in conclusion, Kermit, take it away, please. This is the Rainbow Connection.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. And rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da doo. La da 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 dee da doo.
I don't. I don't think we need to hear from Miss Piggy. Thank you.
Oh, she was just accenting the end of the song there. So I put that in there because I think Kermit is a joyful activist in his own right, singing in the forest like that. So if we can't find inspiration otherwise, let's think of Kermit and remember to be joyfully active, or at least positively active. So does anybody want to make comments, questions?
I just want to say one thing before we go back to the group. Margie has, I don't know if you can see a little handout here for this talk. And in it, there's a really, not only the whole open, but there's a really good process with steps in it for how to reframe concerns from negative to positive. If we have time, Margie, you may just want to go through those steps with the group quickly so that they can kind of get a little sense for themselves, like take a tiny little example of something in that reframing process.
Okay, sure.
Like really
actually, you know, it's funny. I when I asked people to share, I probably wasn't so clear, but I was actually asking people to think of something that was negative that they wanted to turn positive. And the really great thing was that everybody totally went to the positive right away when they shared. So I didn't really emphasize this, but Leslie's reminding me that there is a very simple process that if I think of, for example, the thing that really triggers me, which is all of the dead birds they've found in New Mexico, for example, I can look at what drew me to the positive in the first place. Oh, that's a horrible thing, but what drew me to the positive in the first place is that I really love birds, and I can see so many examples of birds in my imagination. So the first thing that needs changing, so think of the first thing that, how do I shift from that awful, horrific image to something that I can uplift, to something that's positive? So I can think of the love that I have for specific birds, that I see birds flying, that there are birds outside here all around me that are fine, that are healthy. And it isn't that I'm trying to be Pollyanna, but I'm trying to uplift the negative thought. So what outcome would be better? Well, if I think specifically of those birds, well, it takes, when I think of the enormity of the number of birds that have died, I think, well, at least they were migrating apparently. And migration is in full swing right now, as you may know. So I can think, well, at least here, they're migrating and they're doing, there's no threats in my immediate point of view. This is actually maybe not the best example, but I'm trying to set from something that appears negative, I'm looking for the positive, even the first thing that I can change, that I can see, visualize changing, what outcome could be better? And then to set a new intention from reframing that and then act in accordance. What's one small new step you can take, and keep it small if you need to? That's taking, and then focus on that. That's taking positive action. And actually, I picked a pretty big example there because I'm just, you know, right now, that's kind of a norm. What do we do about mass die-off? So, but to leave it on a positive note, many people are looking at how can we avoid this in the future. Very specific friends of mine are looking at, oh, let's uplift this. Let's not have this happen again.
And also, I think over the long run, we can count on nature to, it may take time, but to regenerate many of those generations as possible. Nature will take care of as many of the birds as possible in their own time. But in the meantime, we have to take care of the planet so the birds have someplace to live, right? Does anybody have any, thank you, Margie. Does anybody have any, like a small example of something that you're thinking of that you want to take through this little process to uh, something that upsets you about the environment and how you can take the steps that Margie just talked about to start to turn it to the positive. A little example.
You know, I could give an example really locally. We live on the edge of Lakewood Ranch. We don't live in Lakewood Ranch, and there was a development that was going to come in that was gated, and about 36 homes on about 45 acres, and it seemed impossible. They were going to bring the bulldozers in and clear cut everything. And all of us neighbors got together in the local fire station day in and day out. And we just kept focusing on the wildlife and what it would be for a neighborhood to not have this development come in.
It was the last piece of natural Florida area of untouched, uncultivated land, a small little piece.
And we just kept focusing and meeting in the fire station and walking around to every neighbor. And a lot of neighbors were like, because we were going to charge a local poll tax to save this land, and it got to be very protracted. But the point is that we didn't give up, and we never ever thought we would. It didn't seem possible to win, but at the last minute, the Manatee County commissioners decided we were so passionate about it that they couldn't ignore us. And we actually ended up saving this land. And I just saw a guy yesterday on the golf course who was with us, who said that it was just amazing that other people used us as an example for saving local land. So we have that land now just the way it always has been.
And one of the things that was so powerful about that was that the people leading the group insisted that the people who were opposing it were angry and nasty and attacking and very negative. And that anybody who participated not do that and stay focused only on the benefits and being positive and not attack back and not demean the other side. And it took real discipline. And one of the Fed was everybody who spoke to them from the group wanting to preserve this land was positive and passionate and never once attacked them or the other side. And that's one of the things that persuaded them was the commitment and the passion to the positive, because boy, they were attacked left and right by the people who objected. And the tax was going to be about at a maximum, I think, of about $40 a year for the biggest homes in the area. And that's what they were angry about. So it was an amazing experience of being the positive.
And what was interesting about it too was the leaders were fierce about do not attack the nasty opposition. And there was one leader of the opposition that seemed, I thought he was more interested in just ranting and attacking than he really cared about the issue. But the leadership among us was really strict about do not attack back. And one guy got drunk one time and started to attack, and he was dragged out of the room by all the rest of us. So.
Literally, physically dragged out. Anybody have any comments, any feelings you want to express? Anything you want to contribute to the discussion? Please, Mona.
Okay. For several years, I was involved with the Fruitville Initiative. You probably are aware of that, the celery fields and all of that. And we had a very active group, the Fruitville 210 Community Alliance. And we mobilized quite a community to stop the Benderson kind of rampage of development. And we stood our ground, but we stood it with a positivism and a belief that we were really right. And then, we won. And so then it seemed once we won, and there didn't seem to be a cause that we were all hanging together, the mobilization point, the group just fell apart. And so then when we were not watching, it seems to now because we haven't mounted this positive activism, the big development has come in, and they are taking over. Even though it was supposed to be written in black and white, they were not allowed to do that, but they find ways to circumvent it. So, Margi, what you're talking about is the positive activism. What you're doing is you're saying we need to be vigilant all the time. Instead of dropping the cause, we were using the organization to give us the shield. And we probably just in our own minds stopped the cause because we had thought we had won. So your talk is so beautiful today in telling us to keep up our positive activism, even when we don't have the shield, and we don't think we need the shield of the organization to move, to create the opportunity. So it's just wonderful, because we really need to have that now. The timeliness of what your message is wonderful. And I thank, of course, Phyllis and Leslie for seeing the wisdom of all of that. And I've never met you before. You're an absolute delight. I thank you. It's been wonderful. So great. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Your point about being vigilant is very important. I know I worked in, again, with celery fields and saving the 4 quads, part of the land there from development. And you never know what's going to happen. And without even talking about specifics, we do need to stay vigilant and stay positive, and be very, very aware of what we want and take positive action.
And again, one of the things that was so powerful in those hearings, a different set of commissioners, about the celery fields and the quads was, actually it may have been the other one. One of the things that persuaded commissioners when Margi was doing work was that she showed photos of the swallowtail kites that lived in the land that they were trying to preserve. And they were beautiful photos. And they made it very visceral and emotional for the commissioners and the people watching to see the incredible power and beauty of nature. And she had taken some fantastic photos. And after the hearings were over, one of the commissioners, the one who kind of turned things around, said, "When I saw those birds, it got to me." And so the positive action was to inspire the person that some people were thinking of as the enemy, to align, to inspire. And Margi was a very powerful speaker at the hearings to help them do that. It was extremely powerful. Anyone else?
I can tell a real
Gail? We'll do Gail and then Chris.
Okay. Hi, I was just thinking about very small steps. And small step for me is to get outside, walk around and admire something, that see it differently, take time to take a look at it. And when I do that, I usually feel some sort of a connection, which carries me through. The second thing is I was reminded on the Kermit song that when I worked in a stressful office 40 hours a week, that I used to actually have a physical file that I would call my feel-good file. And in it I put joke cards, I put other things. Well, I think for the next couple of months, hopefully not years, I'm going to put the Kermit song in there. So thank you.
That's great.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and it's Chris Hannafin once again. Just an aside is Jane Fonda in her book, she talks about if you are doing a peaceful protest, to do exactly what Margi was saying about not resist and, just, kindness and all the good things. But right now, actually tomorrow, there's going to be more hearings on Selby Gardens because our beautiful gift of Selby Gardens, pristine, given to our community, is being very commercialized. They're having like 100 events a year there, and they are putting out the word that they have really compromised with the community because restaurant instead of top floors going on the bottom floor. The garage size, they said they shortened it. However, they widened the footprint, and there's only 36 spaces left. And there will be, with that extra restaurant, there will be 4 restaurants on the property. They're doing a lot of weddings and different venues there, and there's going to be a big change for traffic. They're going to be the street that runs alongside of Selby. There's a covenant that you can never close that off. It's got to be a public street. Well, they intend to close it off. They have boat slips outside. So what the heck? Are they going to be having groups of boats come in to like eat lunch or whatever? But anyway, it's not much of a compromise. It's a change, but if there's anything any of you can do, or even set the good intentions to keep Selby the pristine gift that it was from Marie Selby to our community, not to be commercialized. And that restaurant is to be called Michael's on the Bay.
And just to tag on what Chris is saying, their meeting is going to be virtual, and you can watch the hearings. And I think you could, I don't know what the deadline was to be able to speak, but you can speak virtually. Thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate it. Anybody else?
Tomorrow.
Comments, reactions to the talk?
Deb, did someone else want to talk? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I have a quick story.
We'll do Joan, Phyllis, Nina, Deb.
Okay. Mine is from way back. As you know, I just moved here a couple of years ago, and I picked an area that has many, many trees, and I mean a lot of trees. And I just found out from a neighbor who's been here 35 years why we have so many trees. The builder would not let any trees be cut down, so each building in this area has to be in between trees. So he made the builders not knock down any trees. So and that, as I say, it was many years ago, but the neighbor was here when this was happening, and that's the way the builder was. So,
you know, that in my opinion is one of something that we can all focus on positively. There's no need in a new development to clear cut. It's just, in other words, just cut everything down. It only is because it's cheaper, it's quicker.
Right.
But if you go to these new developments, there's no shade. It isn't nice for people. Forget even the animals and the birds. So this particular developer is really worthy of our praise, and we should focus on all developers tucking houses in and among beautiful trees. Trees are literally our lungs, and if we cut them down, we're canaries in coal mines. So that's a wonderful story, and it's great. It's local.
Yeah, thank you, Joan. Who is next? Phyllis?
Phyllis?
Well, I was thinking that my work personally, in my work, I always work with people who share my values, because I want to work with people I can love and really get into. And a number of them are people who were very concerned with the environment, and they had impediments. You know, like there was a guy who had written 3 books on sustainability, but he wasn't earning a living, and his wife was leaving him, you know, and their kids, taking the kids. And I helped him develop another source of income so that he could continue writing. And now he has 2 more books. And I also helped him make his voice more personal. So now they sell really well, and he also used to think that money was evil, and we got over that, and he's a keynote speaker and has a national impact. Or a architect who thought he was a general architect, and I helped him get really clear on what it was he wanted to do most and have the confidence to do it. And he built the first LEED certified residential house in his area, and I helped him placed a story about it in Southern Living and a number of other publications. And, and so that's what he does now. And then there was a woman I met who was teaching preschool and felt very passionate about outdoor education for kids, even in slums, and wanted to teach teachers how even in places where the playgrounds were covered with glass, they could make it safe for kids to be outside. And she has built that into a whole consulting business, working with things like the Philadelphia Water District and developing educational programs to bring kids in and learn about water tables. So I think this goes for all of us. The way I feel is that part of my job is to multiply the impact of people who are also passionate about what I'm passionate about.
A very positive energy.
Thank you, Margi.
Everybody see in the, thank you, Phyllis. Did everyone see in the chat that Joan says that the development she was talking about is Chandler's Ford, which is part of the Meadows? Because I thought that was a very good question.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Phyllis. Was it Nina who was next? Yes.
As you guys know, I teach finance, and what I always incorporate actually in the first day of class is to make a big distinction between the goal of the financial manager to maximize shareholder wealth versus optimize shareholder wealth, keeping stakeholders in mind. And I give an example. I tell my students to watch the movie River Blue. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. And anyways, I show them the trailer. I highly recommend. Oh, it's very emotional. I cried when I saw it. It was actually here at the Sarasota Film Festival a couple of years ago. River Blue, and then I talked about sustainability. And Yahoo now has, when you look up a stock quote, it has a sustainability rating for each company, which I think is fabulous. Yeah, so I did a little group discussion about that, and I think that was a really, to me, it was really close to my heart. And I'm going to continue doing that. But I liked how you talked, Margie, about the pictures you took of the birds and how that changed these people's minds, and that are making the decision. The decision makers. There's another really great movie about the oceans that I just saw. And I highly, highly recommend it. It's called My Octopus Teachers on Netflix, in case you haven't seen it. My Octopus Teacher, again, it made me cry. It's so beautiful. But seeing these animals, I mean, these fish and the octopus in their environment, I think I might have to show that to my students next. And then one more thing I want to mention is, I think I mentioned this last week, but if you find yourself so overwhelmed with all the negativity that's going on, all the stuff that's going on with the election, all that, there's really a great workshop by Joey Klein. It's called The Power of Emotion. And he has these steps that you're talking about, Margie. He has the triangle on top is your vision. You have to really visualize you and feel the emotion. It's all based on emotions, like you said. Then you write down the emotions, the thoughts that come with it, the actions you take, and there's a pattern, and that pattern spirals, whether that is a love-based or fear-based type of emotion. It's extremely well organized, and it has been so helpful to me. And by the way, he does educate people to become certified trainers.
What is his name?
Who is this person?
Okay, so maybe I can type it into the chat. The company is called Conscious Transformation. The guy who developed this, the founder, is Joey Klein. And right now he's running a special for $200. You get like 5 workshops. It's incredible. The value is incredible. But I type it real quick in the workshop. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you for all those.
If you can, please put it in the chat. And thank you.
Those are great suggestions. And I appreciate the positive foci here.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to make a comment or share?
Deb, you were talking, Deb.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I look at the big screen. That's why you see the side of my face. It's easier for me to see you there than in the smaller
Oh,
screen.
sure.
That's why it may look like I'm not paying attention, but I'm watching the bigger picture.
I understand completely. Did you want to, you were mentioning some specific big time activists locally. Did you want to give us their names? Because it sounded like that you're really in touch with the big guys here, the big gals here.
So the Sarasota Institute and David Houle, and I can type all that in. I did put two, while you guys were talking, what came up for me was, I don't know if you're familiar with Yes magazine, but I would highly recommend supporting them. They're a little bit of an alternative journalistic viewpoint, but they recently had a fabulous article on Florida ranchers. So when you said, you know, that these new developments are devoid of trees, it's not always that they've knocked trees down, but rather that they took cow fields and made them into developments. And that's what you find, you know, out at Lakewood National and places like that. And I'm a golfer and I don't like playing those courses either because they don't have any shade, as you said. One of the things that I would highly recommend you do, you know, in your activist life is to insist that they put real trees up and not palm trees, you know, along roadways and in subdivisions and whatnot, rather than palm trees, which are no shade and just are going to blow over in a storm anyway. But this article that I posted in the chat with Yes Magazine talks a lot about the sustainability of our ranchers. And you may or may not know that we grow a lot of, well, we don't grow the beef, we grow calves in Florida. It's too hot to bring them to the size to be beef steaks. But we birth a lot of calves in Florida and we sell them. That's a big piece of our economy, but it talks about the ranchers and how they are trying to sustain their business and the ecology at the same time. It's really a fascinating article.
You say that's the Est magazine?
Yes, Y-E-S exclamation point.
Oh, yes. Oh, cool.
Yeah, Margi, it's all in the chat. So if you all want to keep this information, you should be able to see on the bottom of the chat where it says to everyone, there should be 3 dots and a little gray dots and a box on the right. If you have your own, not a free account, but a paid account for Zoom, if you click on those 3 dots, you can click on Save Chat. And it'll save everything that's written in the chat in a little folder on your computer. So you can retrieve any of the information. Thanks very much, Deb. Anybody else? Phyllis?
Phyllis?
I just want to be divergent for a moment to announce some upcoming meetings.
Mm-hmm. You beat me to it. Thank you.
Oh, you want to do it?
No, please.
Okay. Next month, our speaker is going to be Beth Slazak. And if anyone is familiar with SIPSI, which is the Center for Creativity in Buffalo, it's the largest creativity conference in the world, and Beth is the manager. And a while back, I heard her talk on fixed versus growth mindset, and which was something I thought I knew quite a bit about. And what was interesting about Beth's presentation is she made me aware of the places where I was growth-oriented, but also where I was fixed. So I had thought of myself as a growth-oriented person, but like she made me realize that it wasn't a solid thing. And then also had a lot of little ways to both flip your mindset as well as other people's. And the other thing is Beth is very funny and theatrical. So she's going to be our speaker in October. And then in November, it's going to be Danny Fox. And Danny spoke to this group back in 2017.
Yes.
and she did a presentation on tapping, which I forget an acronym for. And
EFT.
yeah, and I just was so impressed with her as a speaker. I always wanted to, was always hoping she'd come back. And the last time I approached her actually about speaking at the Unitarian Church, she was in the middle of moving to Celebration. And now she's moving to North Carolina, but she will be free in November. So she's somebody who's extremely knowledgeable. She's certified in 5 or 6 modalities. She's a very good speaker. We haven't nailed down the topic. It may be a demo of Ericksonian hypnosis, so a group experience with some information attached. But so I just wanted to give you a heads up on what's coming.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember interviewing Danny and talking to her to get her to speak a couple of years back, 3 years back. And she's a dynamic speaker, and she helps people resolve issues fairly quickly through EFT and hypnotic work. So that should be great. And I'm looking, after reading Beth Slazak's bio, I'm looking forward to hearing her as well. Thank you for inviting her, Phyllis. It's also said she's got a certified humorist certificate, and anybody who says that interests me. So it should be great. I know that Gail has kindly offered to facilitate in November for Danny. And so far, since we've been back online, this is looking like the Leslie show for facilitating. And to be honest, it's easy for me and I don't mind, but I would love it if some of you would be willing to step up and if someone would volunteer to facilitate for October. I'll do it again if nobody does, but really, this is a group and I'd love to have more group participation. So if anybody would like to facilitate, I'm sure Beth will be a pleasure to work with. And if you'd like to do it in October, please email me, leslieaustin@mindspring.com. Okay, that would be great. Anything really quickly before we wrap up for the day? Does anybody have any events coming up or anything you're doing that you want to share very, very quickly? Or are we good?
Leslie, I'd just like to thank you all for having me speak. And I do want to say that all of these suggestions are really helpful. And as I develop Wayfinding the Cosmos, I'd like to field all of these different ideas, and you may see them reflected in my website, because my intention is to really look at the cosmos and how we can uplift our planet, our dear planet. So,
right, and Margi's, we're both starting Facebook groups to just keep putting content, putting information out there for people to think about things, to stimulate them and to enjoy. Hers is wayfindingthecosmos.com. Mine, which has nothing on it except a temporary banner, is Dr. Leslie Austin on Facebook, but there will be stuff on it soon. So we invite you both to please join those groups. Anybody else have anything you want to offer before we wrap up for the day? Joan, you're muted. Mona, you're muted. There you go.
I just wanted to share today. My podcast was shown. I've never done I've been in this virtual world for very long, and I had the opportunity to participate in a podcast on the Magnificent Chat several weeks ago, and today it was aired. And so for me, it's a very exciting event in my professional career. I just wanted to share that.
Do you have a website or a place where you know it was aired that people can go to hear it?
I don't have it set up, but my website is actionomics.com.
Actionomics.com. Okay. So, and there will be a link there for that podcast. That's
Yes.
great. Congratulations, Mona.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, my big accomplishment is I decided to test myself last week and do something I haven't done literally in decades and decades and decades to see if I still could. And I booked some time at a local batting cage. I got my old baseball bat out and wanted to physicalize. And I was totally stunned at this age and after so many decades, after just a couple of minutes, my body knew what to do. And when I stopped thinking about it and just let my body do its thing, boy, I was smacking those baseballs, and it was great. And what the message from that I want to share with you is, I really surprised myself with what I could do. And what my takeaway from that was, I can do so much more than I think I can if I just get my mindset out of the way and follow my energy. Just follow my energy and open it up. So I offer that to all of you. You can all do so much more than you think you can. And that ties right back into Margi's talk. If you focus on the positive, you can do so much more than you think you can. So let's go for that. Thank you very much, Margi, for a really wonderful meeting.
Thank you.
With that, I think we'll sign off. We'll see you all next month. Please come back. Please tell your friends to come back. As long as we're doing these online, everybody's welcome. And you're welcome. We do not have any idea yet what we're doing about Christmas. It doesn't, at the moment, look like we'll be meeting in person, but then you never know. So maybe we'll have a virtual party. We'll figure something out. All right. Anyway, you guys have a great month, and we'll see you next month. Thank you all very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.